everybody, and thank you for tuning in to LAB today on my video about applications and how to make yours stand out from the rest. This is a massive area and I could go on for hours, but I'm going to try and break it down into a few smaller sections so that you don't get too bored. Okay, so my three sections are basically going to be preparation, what to do when you open your application form, and how to go about answering the questions in your application form. So in terms of preparation is obviously key to anything that you're doing in life. They say fail to prepare, prepare to fail, and it is absolutely true. The better prepared you are, the more efficient you are, and the better you carry out tasks in the long run. So in terms of preparation, what you need to do is first of all decide the law firms that you're going to apply to. I am going to assume for the purposes of this video that you've already done that, because I'm going to do a whole separate video about that and I don't want to go over the same thing twice. But in terms of number of applications, I would definitely recommend choosing 5 to 10 law firms to apply to, so you can do a small number of really good applications rather than doing loads and loads of applications which are very average. A good application form will probably take you around 3 hours realistically, once you've factored in all of the research you need to do on the different firms and the specific firms that you are applying to. So make sure you factor that time into your daily life. Also bear in mind the deadlines for these application forms. You don't want to spend lots of time doing a really great application form and then finding that you've missed the deadline, so make sure you check that in advance. Also, another thing to check is UCAS points. This is where I came a cropper and a couple of different application forms. As some of you will know if you've watched my intro vlog, I do not have the best A levels in the world, and that did restrict the firms that I could apply to. There is a facility to put in some mitigating circumstances if you have them, but bear in mind that those mitigating circumstances need to be pretty exceptional in order to get around the UCAS point barrier. So make sure you check out all of those things before you actually open your application form. Another good tip is to go on to mylawcareers.net and open the My Locker facility. Don't worry, I'll link it in the bio, so don't worry about remembering it. But basically, My Locker is a facility where you can store all of your basic information, like your name, address, contact details, A-level results, degree results, etc., to save you putting it into every single application form that you do. What you can do is, once they're stored on there, you just import it into whichever application form you're doing. Not every single law firm is signed up to mylawcareers.net, but a lot of them are. So if you're applying to some of the larger corporate and commercial law firms, then I would thoroughly recommend using My Locker, because the chances are you will be able to import a lot of your stuff on there. Okay, so that is preparation. So what to do when you actually open your application form. I would not suggest trying to do your application all in one session, because you want to have a chance to read over your answers a couple of times, look at the different questions. So plan to do it in a few different sessions. Don't just say, right, this afternoon I'm going to do this application form and I will finish it if it kills me, because the chances are you won't do a good application then. So open it a few times, put in a few different bits of information each time you open it, and sort of build your application slowly over time. Other things to look out for are the types of questions that they are asking for. So you know whether you need to tailor your application around largely competency-based questions, or whether it's largely commercial awareness questions, or whether they are asking some really weird questions like, if you're a vegetable, what would you be and why? So bear those things in mind, because it'll help you plan your time. Also take note of whether you need to also attach a CV and cover letter, because that could also add a lot of time to your application, because both of those things need a lot of work. So those are the things to look for when you are opening your application form. Now, when it comes to actually doing your application form, generally speaking, application forms cover a few broad areas. So the first one is competency type questions, like name a time when you've worked as part of a team or as a leader. Another section would be work experience, tell them about what work experience you've done and what you've learned from it, etc. And the other ones are kind of commercial awareness type questions, or more off the wall type questions like I just mentioned. So I'm going to start off by talking about some competency based questions and how to go about answering those. And in order to do that, I have prepared this handy grid, which is great. And I'm going to talk about this probably in my interviews video as well. Don't worry if you can't see it, I will put it up on a slide at the end, and I don't want to hold it up for the whole time I'm talking. So this is what it looks like. Basically, I have identified a few different competencies, like name a time when you've worked in a group or displayed leadership skills or impressed a customer, etc. I've listed them there, and then I've put an example of when I've used that skill, and I've tried to use as many different examples for each one as I can. I've only put one in a couple of them, but I would recommend trying to put as many as you can, so you've got a number of different examples to pull from on those questions. Then I've said what skills I learned or what skills I used to show that competency, what I learned from it. Don't be afraid to say if you failed at something. Just say why you failed and what you learned from it and what you would do differently next time. That's great. The next bit is applicability. So that's a really key section. Applicability is basically how you apply what you've learned to being a great law student. What am I trying to say? To how you would be a good trainee and ultimately a great lawyer. So that applicability section is really helpful. And also, if you can get in there some examples of why you would be a great lawyer for that particular firm, that is also really good. So have a look at their key values on the websites and try and throw a few key values into your answer to show that you have a specific desire to work for that firm. Okay, so that's competency. Try and fit it into a few words as possible, because you probably will only have a few words to use on your application form. That's another thing to watch out for, word count. Actually, I'm going to put this down and then I'm going to talk about word count. Okay, word count is another really important bit, because I would recommend writing your answers in a Word document before you put them onto the actual application form, because if you type them straight on, you can't really see how it flows, you don't have the benefit of spell checker, etc. So always type it in a Word document and then copy and paste it into the box, I would say anyway. But be careful about what your word count is, because sometimes some boxes will just let you write and write and write and write, even though your word count is only 200 words or something, but actually whoever's reading your application form will probably stop reading halfway through if they know you've reached the word count. So be careful of that, and also check that it's a word count and not a character count, because you don't want to type a whole answer that's exactly 200 words into Word and then try and copy it and then realise actually you only had 200 characters and not 200 words, because then you're going to have to go back and redo it. So watch out for the word count point. The next thing I want to talk about is work experience. So there'll be a work experience section, and don't be afraid to use examples from other types of work experience. It doesn't have to all be legal work experience. If it is, that's great. It shows you've got a lot of legal work experience, but they also want to know what else you've done in your life, because most other things will carry some transferable skills that you can use in law generally. So even if you've worked in Tesco, or you've helped out a livery yard like I did, I mean, no one would ever think that, you know, mucking out horses was applicable to law, but trust me, you can find some transferable skills in there. So don't worry about trying to have loads of legal work experience or trying to tailor your application form to only mention your legal work experience. Put as much in there as you possibly can. If you've got 12 examples and they'll let you put 12 examples, put all 12 of them down, but stick the most important ones at the top in case they get bored and don't read all the rest of them. Okay, so that is work experience. Commercial awareness questions. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this one, because I am going to do a whole separate video about commercial awareness, how to be commercially aware, and how to answer commercial awareness questions. But basically, the commercial awareness question will be something like, tell us about change in the legal marketplace and what our firm should be doing about it in order to remain profitable. It'll probably word it slightly better than that, but it'll be something along those lines. So that's the commercial awareness question, where you can use your knowledge about what's going on in the economical marketplace and the legal marketplace to show what a great business person you would be and what a great leader of the firm you would be. In terms of the other off-the-wall questions, it's anyone's guess. Every law firm is different. Just say something sensible that's a bit different. That's all they're really looking for, to show a bit of personality. So those are how to answer the questions. My final key message I will leave you with is apply early. I know a lot of law firms will say, oh no, don't look at any of our application forms until the deadline has passed, but that often is not true, because realistically, if recruiters are looking at their application forms and they've got thousands and thousands and thousands, they will start sorting them into piles of yes, no, and maybe. And the earlier you get your application in, the higher the chance is that you will be put on the yes pile, because by the end, the deadline, if their yes pile is up here and the no pile is down here, and you're kind of maybe somewhere in between, you're much more likely to go into no than yes. So do try and get your application forms in as early as you possibly can. And that is my final word on the issue. I hope you have found this useful. I haven't just told you a bunch of things that you've already heard a million times or bored you to death. As always, please do give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down and leave me some comments so that I can improve. And if you want to hear more from me, please hit subscribe. Thanks very much.